Today on WMCT, we're thrilled to welcome a familiar voice and to put a face to the voice of Dave Dirks, Chief Meteorologist for CYB News 5 and Fox Tri-Cities. For Dave has been the one we turn to when the skies go dark or the snow starts falling. But today we're going to be going beyond the green screen to learn about the man behind the forecast, his journey into meteorology, and what a chief meteorologist really does, and why predicting the weather in the Appalachian Mountains is no easy task.
It's not.
Welcome to WMCT.
Thank you. I appreciate it. We enjoy broadcasting our forecasts up in Johnson County, definitely.
Yeah. And I, as I was saying, I come from a place where like we do the broadcast and we broadcast the weather, but we never have any back and forth. Where I always see, even on TV, you have a little bit of back and forth with the host.
Absolutely.
So I figured most of my listeners hear your voice all night, and 3-4 times during my show, and I figured put a little bit of story behind the voice. So.
Sure, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
So let me tell you, what first sparked your interest in weather and meteorology?
Well, I think most meteorologists have a similar story in the sense that it's something that just is like you're born with this desire to watch clouds and track storms, and that developed in me at a young age, probably in maybe third grade, somewhere in that time frame. I was growing up in the state of Iowa, and thunderstorms were the thing that really made me excited, and of course I being in Iowa, I love snow and cold and blizzards and all that. So I liked the bad weather basically, and that's what got my interest when I was growing up. It happened really early at a very young age.
All right. Yeah, I grew up in Chicago, so we always had storms and snow. Although looking back, it seems that we had a lot more snow when we were kids than we really did.
Well, yeah, I
think the blizzard of '79 colored me for years or something. It seemed like it was always snowy.
Yeah, and then there's definitely been a trend probably for less snow here in the southern Appalachians than what it was like, decades ago.
But I mean, just when you're kids, those extreme weather really leaves an impression that lasts forever.
Yeah. And as a kid, you were always glued to the TV set. Of course, now there's many ways to get the school closings and announcements, but you were waiting to see your school say no school here today. I said that's exactly what I've been wanting to hear.
Yeah, and back in those days too, there might be a school nearby that's closed. Or where I grew up, I went to a Catholic grade school. And you would sometimes have the public schools be closed, but the Catholic schools wouldn't be, or vice versa. And then you'd go out in the snow to the school and make fun of the kids in class. And but all right, I'm sorry, I'm getting off tangent.
That's okay.
So where'd you go to school, and what kind of training does it take to become a meteorologist?
All right, so I grew up let me just go from the start. I grew up in a small farming town, all right? So very small grade school, very small high school. Near Waterloo, Iowa, and I knew when I got into high school, when you start thinking about what you want to do for college, for a career, I knew I wanted to become a meteorologist. I was always Iowa. I was born and not born, but kind of raised being an Iowa Hawkeye fan, and Iowa State is the only university at the time that offered the degree program. So they're arch rivals, of course, interstate rivals. So I had to change my loyalty upon finding that out immediately. I became an Iowa State fan and had to go the other way with Iowa. But I went to Iowa State University, pursued my degree in meteorology there, which is in Ames, Iowa.
When you get a degree in meteorology, is it how do I phrase this? I don't mean to sound insulting. Is it the science behind the weather as well as what's the difference between a meteorologist and a climatologist?
Well, the climatologist is studying how the climate over a longer period of time is behaving, if you will. I mean, my job, and there's many different fields of meteorology, obviously, but my interest was kind of in forecasting. I really got to be honest with you, when I went to college, I didn't know what I wanted to do with my meteorology degree. I just knew that I wanted to become a meteorologist. But yeah, I mean, you go to college, you learn all the physics and the calculus that go into the atmosphere and how it operates and changes with time. And so I wasn't probably the biggest math whiz, smartest math whiz in the class. So I went through it. A lot of people, start out in the meteorology program. They did at that time and kind of dropped out gradually as they realized, the science and the physics and all that, the math that was involved with it.
Well, the only time I see meteorologists is on TV or on the radio. I'll hear them on the radio.
Yeah.
But is there fields of meteorology that is not in forecast? I know the military has them to forecast because when I was in the military, there's always military applications of weather, and there's TV and there's radio, and there's the Weather Channel. But is there other things that meteorologists do?
Sure. I would say, I don't know the exact percentage, but it's probably less than 10%, maybe even 5% of meteorologists who are actually on camera doing what I do. Like you said, the military, obviously, a very important aspect of the military would be, meteorology and weather forecasting. The government, the National Weather Service, which of course is very key in disseminating information, not only forecasts, but also weather warnings and watches and emergency information that can be then relayed to us, then we relay to our viewers and so forth. So and there's weather sensitive industry. Of course, there's.
Oh yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I didn't think about that. Yeah.
And there's universities and there's research and development of our field that the real brains behind weather forecasting is numerical weather prediction. And of course, you have to have smart people working to make our forecast models better and making our forecasts accurate.
I was just going to say that, okay, you brought that up, that there's a very low percentage actually do to some kind of stuff you do. Mm-hmm. So how much then, in your case, how much did you just fall into it? Do you like being on TV? Is there sort of, it's not like being an actor, but is there sort of I want to be on TV? But like I'm on radio because I really enjoy
doing that.
I grew up with radio.
I'll be honest with you, like I said, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I grew up in a small town, so I got to do, you dive into and dabble in anything. I got into sports and got into drama and stuff like that. So I had some experience, with public speaking and stuff like that. But that isn't really what I thought I was going to end up doing. I just happened to be lucky enough when I was going to Iowa State in the meteorology program at the time, the ABC affiliate, WOI, was owned by the university.
Oh.
And so there were a lot of journalist students and there were some meteorology students who got to get their foot in the door that way, and that's how I got my foot in the door. I got to know the chief meteorologist at WOI at the time. This is back in the late 80s, mid to late 80s, so it's a long time ago. And so that's how I got my foot in the door and was somehow blessed to get an opportunity to try out for an on-air position, which is another story. If you want to get into that, I can get into that as well. But that was a bit frightening.
Is it like an audition for a television show or something?
Yeah, well, it was this business, people move around all over the place and all the time. It's not uncommon. Some morning meteorologists left the job, and they came to me and a couple other meteorology students that were working at the TV station as interns to want to know if we wanted to try out for the position. So it was a morning job. They didn't put you in front of the camera live right away. I got to practice a little bit, but I just remember that first time I came in to do the morning weather live, I was absolutely scared to death. And the TV cameras are, especially back then, they were really big and really intimidating looking. They're a little bit smaller now, but there's a red light up on top of the camera that tells you you're on the air, and so. Camera operator's going 4, 3, 2, 1. That first time I was doing it live, and the hand goes down like this, and the big red light comes on. I thought, oh my God, I'm on live TV right now. And it probably looked like a deer staring at the headlight of a car. When I said, I don't remember what I said for the next 2 minutes. So it was a frightening experience. But thankfully that left, or at least gradually I got better. Otherwise I couldn't have done it.
One thing I'm amazed by. One thing I'm amazed when I see you guys on TV. And it's hard on the radio, but I can't imagine doing it on TV. You're talking to a camera, and if you look on the video of this on my website, you'll see there's nobody else in the studio. But you look like you're talking. Your facial expressions, you look like you're talking to somebody.
I guess. Yeah.
And do you tell yourself that the camera's another person, or you're the co-host there?
I don't know. I guess maybe in the back of your mind subconsciously you're thinking that obviously I don't think about there being thousands of people watching at that time. I don't. All you see is the camera. I mean, you try. I guess you just kind of have to. With practice comes never perfection. Certainly not there. But as you become more comfortable doing what we do on the air, you just automatically try to put a little personality into it. I don't necessarily think I'm talking to a single, to a person there in the camera, but I'm trying to imagine all as a collective group. Try to put a little personality into it, a little fun.
I guess I know you're saying the same thing as when you're on the radio. You're doing the same thing. The facial expressions are like, it was a phenomenal watching you, and the other hosts on the news show and realizing that they're you seem like you're interacting.
Yeah, well, during the commercial breaks, we are interacting as friends, and as colleagues, and some of the conversations get a little bit probably not television worthy after you get to know somebody for a while. You're talking about all kinds of things, No, I mean, not bad stuff, but you know what I'm saying.
So my next question is this, and you have to separate Hurricane Helene because I'll ask you about that later. But can you share a memorable moment, maybe a weather event from early in your career that really stands out?
Yeah, I mean, there are probably half dozen or more that really stand out, but this is a tropical system. I think it was 1989, I believe it was Hurricane Hugo, which came in into the Charleston area, South Carolina. That actually it came in from the Atlantic as opposed to the Gulf. That's our janitor. I don't know if they can pick up that noise of the.
They will, but that's all right.
but it came in from the Atlantic, and it was a still tropical storm when it got to the western North Carolina mountains. It came right up through Johnson County and then curved up to the north, but obviously didn't have near the impact. But that was the first big tropical system that I remember impacting the southern Appalachian.
Really? See, I didn't know that this had happened before.
Coming up, how a cold front will increase our rain chances, and more importantly, what it means for those weekend plans.
Of a kind, and hopefully a never again event. That was just something that was unprecedented. But I mean, just a couple other things before we go on. There was the blizzard of '93, which if you were probably still in Chicago at that point, but that was a huge event. Superstorm that came in March. That was a big one. Like Mount Mitchell and some of those mountains, High Knob, had 40, 50 inches of snow, 60
really?
And we had anywhere from 10 to 20 inches of snow, and came with blizzard, gusty, strong wind. And it was really unusual not only to get that magnitude of a storm, but have it happen in March too. But there was the tornado outbreak of 2011. Not sure if you were here for that or not. That was the worst severe weather, like tornadic event that occurred, which it had like 14 tornadoes. Touching down in northeast Tennessee, southwest Virginia, resulted in numerous deaths and just devastated some communities as well. But not, I would say the big, the most unprecedented event had to be Helene. That'll be the one that'll always stand out, I think.
Yeah, we're talking about that.
And for those who lived through those tornadoes, that too. I mean, those were the two biggies, I would say.
Yeah, the house we live in now. The house that was there before was taken down by a tornado, I think in 1999, maybe 2000.
Right.
So
in Johnson County.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty rare. I think I want to say that I remember that maybe happening, but I mean it's kind of rare for those to get a tornado in Johnson County.
Yeah.
I mean probably less than 5 ever been documented all throughout history.
Yeah. So how has the field of meteorology changed since you started? We didn't actually say when did you let's track it. When did you graduate college?
In 1986.
Okay.
And
that's when I graduated high school. So
a little bit. I'm the old man here. No matter how old I get, you always be younger. No, you say how older you get, I'm always going to be older than you, right? So I graduated in 1986, and I was working in Des Moines, Ames Des Moines television market, and then I got my job here. After about a year of, back then you sent tapes out. Now you just make a reel, or it's all digital. You don't have to send tapes out. It's kind of an expensive proposition because if you're sending these 3/4-inch tapes out all over the country looking for jobs, 95% of the time you aren't going to even probably get a call back. But it took about a year for me to finally get an offer, or at least an opportunity to come here to interview for this job, and that was back in 1987.
And you've been happy here?
Yeah. I mean, when I was young and dumb, no, I shouldn't say that. When I was young, I thought I wanted to go on into a big market. I mean, like Chicago, where you grew up. That's where the big bucks were, and I'm sure still are. But I fell in love with this area. I mean, after we had Austin, I met my wife here at this TV station, Natalie. She was working production. She hasn't been working here in years and years and years. But we had our first boy here, Austin, and we had two years later, Taylor, our daughter. But once he got into kindergarten, I just...
Well, I was going to say, what do you enjoy most about working in a local newsroom?
Well, I mean, I've always loved weather. I mean, that's been a big plus, having a job that you really enjoy doing. I like getting the forecast and then, preparing it and then delivering it on the air, and then it's just nice to know that when you go out in the public, that people generally appreciate what you do, and it's just kind of nice being able to talk about something and relay that information to people out there, and know that they really do appreciate the weather forecast and the emergency information that you're able to provide them when it becomes that way.
You know what, it does. I think everybody has a little bit of a amateur meteorologist in them. They all want to know how they can predict the weather and stuff. So it's one of those jobs where people look at you and go, well, that's something I wish I could do. So you're not quite, maybe not a celebrity, but kind of like some people look at.
People, I mean, weather affects everybody. I mean, that's something that my job definitely has to do with most everybody's life at some point, probably about every day,
Well, let me ask you this. What's a typical day, especially during active weather? I mean, you're on which newscast? Are you just on the evening newscast?
I'm on 5:30, and 6 on NBC News 5, WCYB, and then we have a Fox show that runs from 10 to 11 p.m., and then back on to NBC from 11 to 11:30 in the evening.
So you're here all that time?
I go home between the evening and the late evening shows. But I mean, my day usually starts around noon, because I do a fair amount of work before I even come in, because I analyze all the forecast models and put together my forecast. Then I'll do the radio forecast from home. I'll do the website update. I'll send out our text forecasts out, and to have all that compiled and done and sent out to you all on the radio stations. Then then I put together my graphics after that and get ready for the show.
And the
Ain't noisy.
sorry for. Hopefully, I'll edit that out. So that's why I was like, stop talking. But okay, let me ask you this, because this is one question I had. You're the chief meteorologist.
Right.
What's your role compared to other meteorologists?
In the
Are
station?
you like the boss in the station?
I'm not big on titles. Maybe that's what they call me, chief meteorologist.
You don't make everybody go, yes, chief. The other meteorologist is like a chef.
I make no one bow down before the chief. No, we got 4 great people in our department, all meteorologists. David Boyd, our morning noon meteorologist. Teresa Carter does weekends and also fills in during the week during not just weather, but other news-related position stuff. And then Kid Alexander's our newest meteorologist, and he just graduated last year too. So no, I mean, I just kind of help coordinate the department, but we all see each other as kind of equals. So I don't see that as being a big thing. No.
Although David Boyd, I'd be interested to meet him. David Boyd, because it seems like you or him do our. I mean, I guess occasionally we get Kid Alexander. But
I mean, on the weekends. Do you have a weekend? Maybe you don't.
Thursday and Friday I do.
Okay.
Afternoon. So a lot of times I hear either you or David Boyd.
Right. Yeah.
And you have different voices until the end. I think he imitates your voice when he signs off, like
Oh,
he
really?
wants to be the chief. I'd watch out.
I got to watch out. David Boyd is after my job.
He says
I'm
Dave.
not worried about it.
He says Dave.
He's a good man. Well, he's one of the nicest people you'll ever meet, David Boyd. I honestly mean that.
Well, if you guys come up for 4th of July, you got to stop in. And,
Yeah.
Okay. So you kind of went over it, but how much of your time is spent analyzing the data and the models versus communicating to the public? So you do five televisions,
We've got 5 newscasts.
five
yeah,
newscasts,
right.
and then you do the radio ones. But so how much? How do you? Is it a lot of work
Yeah,
to
I
do
think,
data?
I mean, it is, I mean, people might just not realize that you put in
Full
several
day.
hours a day, I mean, before you even go on the air. I mean, it takes time to make those graphics and tailor them in the computer models and stuff so that they make sense to the viewer. I mean, we do all that stuff down in the studio we have 2 graphic systems, we call Max 1 and Max 2. But I mean,
Thunder, that rain chance about 30% for Thursday, and as we head into the evening hours, the rain will likely dissipate as temperatures tomorrow afternoon climb into the 80s, very similar to today, just maybe a few more clouds around. That rain chance about 20 or 30%, and cooler temperatures into the mountains of North Carolina with highs only in the 70s, but most areas will be around 80 to about 85. The clouds from that southeastern storm have been pushing into portions of East Tennessee, western North Carolina, but the disturbance now is just east of Jacksonville, and that can bring some of that tropical flow thanks to an area of high pressure off the coast inland, but as this low tracks to the northeast, it will not have any chance to develop tropically. But we will be keeping an eye on this cold front, which right now is bringing some strong weather from Chicago to St. Louis to near Little Rock, and this front will continue to push eastward. Not a big threat of severe weather tonight. However, we will see the field of strong but locally severe weather expand tomorrow, and especially into Friday, where I think we'll start the day with some strong storms here across the southern plains. They'll spread eastward during the day. Not a big chance of severe weather, but level 1 risk, maybe an isolated strong to severe storm. It looks like timing would be mainly for the evening hours, as we do expect those humidity levels really to start ramping up. Dew points by Friday and Saturday near 70, which is getting pretty high, so the moisture will be available for any storm to work with as it comes across the air. I think daytime they'll be on the scattered side on Friday, and partly sunny skies in between any widely scattered shower, but I do expect maybe between about 7 p.m. and 11 p.m. on Friday, we'll see a period of scattered showers and thunderstorms moving through with highs in the upper 70s to mid 80s, and that cold front is going to approach, it looks like, on Saturday, giving us a good chance of scattered showers and thunderstorms that likely will push through and then stall out on Sunday, keeping a chance of showers in the forecast Sunday, and then push back north as a warm front, so some unsettled weather, warm and humid weather through Monday, and then that front may come through and bring some drier weather for the middle of next week.
Thank you, Dave. As we first told you last night, construction officially underway for the Speedway Cloud.
Meteorology, but I mean,
Yeah,
over the
in
years,
Iowa.
and so I was in the flatlands too. But I mean, over the years, you come to understand how different systems impact different parts of our region. Like in the wintertime, you can get a cold air damming that comes down the east side of the mountains. And I know you live in Mountain City, but Boone is not too far away.
Right.
Matter of miles, it can be 28 in Boone and freezing rain. It can be 35, and and 40 with rain in Mountain City, and downsloping winds into Tri-Cities, it can be 55, 60. I mean,
Yeah.
and just in that few short miles, but you kind of learn where those boundaries are and how to make the forecast according to your experience with different weather systems and the northwest flow, which you guys, after a storm passes and we'll get those northwest winds and the cold air kicks in, you all get a lot of snow showers.
Yeah.
And that's when you can get some big snows, and maybe in the Tri-Cities we get a couple, but nothing major. So so you kind of learn how the different aspects of the mountains and impact the weather differently. And believe it or not, sometimes if we get that direct northwest flow coming off one of the lakes, Great Lakes, like Lake Michigan, you can get like streamers of heavy snow that come in on that northwest flow and
Yeah.
really pound our area, our mountains, not
Yeah.
here in the Tri-Cities, but our mountains with heavy snow.
Well, you answered my next question. So are there areas around here that are especially tricky or unpredictable? And when I ask it, I'm like, it's because it just seems to, maybe I'm being very simplistic.
Yeah.
It seems that the weather sometimes bounces off the mountains and turns around. Like it'll snow in Mountain City, and it'll snow longer than like it's saying, and then in Boone they won't be getting anything.
Right.
And I always figure it's like, well, maybe the weather didn't get over the mountain or something.
Well, I mean, sometimes it just depends on the flow of the storm, what direction it's coming from. If you get a cold, like let's say a developing nor'easter that's going to east of the mountains, that will slam the North Carolina mountains sometimes with freezing rain, sleet, snow, and leave, because Mountain City's kind of right on the crest of the mountains there, and then from that side down into the valley of East Tennessee and southwestern Virginia, you're going to get a lot less. So I mean, it depends on the track of a particular storm. Will kind of depend on what part of side of the mountain that's going to get impacted more severely.
But is there anywhere around here that as a meteorologist is tricky or unpredictable?
I would say, I mean, I don't remember specifically. I would say winter storms are the most unpredictable because it's all about elevation and what side of the mountains is, where the cold air is trapped up against or dammed up against, and it can just play havoc. I always say there's never a winter storm that's forecast precisely correct, because each one's different, but you just kind of get an idea through the years, how you try to get as close as you can.
Yeah.
But it definitely is never a perfect winter storm ever forecast.
Well, you actually just answered the next 4 questions I had. Let me, all right, so I did, the last couple of questions I have is just about Hurricane Helene.
Mm-hmm.
Well, first, like, being essentially a once-in-a-lifetime thing,
Right.
how was that for you and the other meteorologists? I mean, did you see it coming? Did it?
I don't think we obviously saw it coming. I
Well,
don't think
yeah.
I don't think
Everybody
anybody
thought it was going to dissipate before it got here.
Well, I mean, I don't know if it dissipated. I don't think full forecast models weren't fully giving the amount of rain that was going to come from that storm, especially onto the North Carolina side. I mean, all right. So there were several factors that came together to make Helene as catastrophic as it was. Number one, we had about 3 days prior to landfall, we had kind of a tropical connection, what we call predecessor rain event that led up to the actual hurricane. All right, so we were seeing 2 or 3 days of intermittent tropical downpours that really saturated the ground, not only in the mountains but also here in the Tri-Cities, and then it came up very, very fast. So it made landfall in the Big Bend of Florida, I think around 11 o'clock that evening, and then by morning, 7 or 8 hours later, it was already into North Georgia as a tropical
yeah, my
storm.
electricity went off about 9 o'clock in the morning.
And so, I mean, it was moving fast, so it didn't have time to dissipate. It was still a tropical storm. It was coming at us, and really key was the direction that it came in. It came in from the south and then veered toward the west, and so that gave that. If you can imagine, these are the mountains right here. This was the flow of the air coming around that counterclockwise flow, and it was direct, kind of perpendicular to the mountains, with just loaded with tropical moisture, and that air was lifted, and it was just tremendous amount. I mean, some parts of North Carolina had 10, 20 inches of rain, 2 feet of rain locally. So,
Yeah, it was wild.
it's-
Up in Trade was, one of my friends' house just got taken
Yeah.
by the river.
Yeah, I mean, it's horrible. I mean, no one expected it to be that bad. I mean, extreme weather events, I say you never really do expect it to be as bad as it gets sometimes.
Yeah.
But I mean, just a track, 100 miles, different track, and it would have,
Wouldn't even count.
yeah, we'd got some of it, but it was just a perfect storm. Serious. I mean, you hear that saying, but it was, perfect storm. Everything that came together with that. Predecessor rains that occurred several days before it, the fast movement and the strength of it as it was still approaching us. It was still a tropical storm with, some winds in the mountains reached 90 miles per hour, which is very uncommon for a tropical system.
And when you guys, I mean, how are you? First of all, did you guys lose power here? I mean,
Intermittently, some places did. Yeah, I mean, we actually had 2 shutters in our house that flew off, but it wasn't because we had any really. I mean, it was just kind of just a chaotic wind that was blowing, but it wasn't anything that was taking down. There were trees and stuff that came down in the Tri-Cities, at least large, tree limbs and stuff like that. But some areas did lose power, yeah. But
Now, were you guys kind of broadcasting through that whole thing, talking the
Yeah.
weather through and everything? And
Yeah, we did. It came in the morning, so David Boyd was largely covering it in the morning, and then the rains had subsided, but the aftermath was really just beginning to kind of unfold as we went through the day, and of course, as word got out how incredibly catastrophic it was, it became not only an effort from the meteorologists, but just the whole news department had to come together, because we had a story.
everybody's a weatherman today.
Yeah, but it was like a story. I mean, it's the kind of story that you aren't going to have ever again. Hopefully, I hope we don't see a repeat
God,
of that.
me too. All right. Well, Dave, it's been a real pleasure having
Nice
you
to
here.
meet. Yeah, thank you.
We appreciate not only the work you do in keeping us safe and informed, but also the insight you shared today about the science, challenges, even the passion. Obviously, you have passion for this forecasting. So just one more thing. Can you give us the channels that you're on again, or the newscasts that you're on again?
Oh, I'm on. It's News 5, WCYB, the NBC affiliate for the Tri-Cities. My main shifts are for the 5, 5:30, 6 o'clock newscasts, and then again that's on NBC, and then we go to Fox for an hour between 10 and 11, and then at 11 we go back to NBC for a half hour.
Well, I appreciate you. Thank you.
Sure,
For being part
thank
of
you
my
for
show.
having me. Nice to